So, welcome everybody. Welcome to the book launch for Terry H. Watson in terms of the book. Mrs. Teresa Watson, who's sitting in front of us now. And I'm so delighted that you could come and join us today. It's great to have you here.
It's good to be here at last, yes. This is great technology.
So I think most of us who've joined us live today will know my name's Kim MacLeod from Indie Authors World, and we help make writers' dreams come true. And here's one of our lovely writers with us just now who has published a few books, shall we say.
Yes.
She's one of our most prolific authors. Never seemed to be without an idea. I think that's
true.
That's true. But today we're going to be celebrating this book, which is Our Nipper, which is Teresa's new book. And Our Nipper is it's a change from your norm or your previous style, your previous genre, shall we say.
Yes, it is.
But just to whet everybody's appetite, I'm just going to read you the blurb, and then we're going to have a little chat with Teresa, asking her a few questions. And she's going to give us a little bit of a reading as well, which is something to look forward to. We're going to hear her read a bit of the book, and then we'll open up to questions from you all as well. Anybody who wants to know anything, you can also pose a question if you want in the chat. So if there's something comes to mind, you can add it in the chat facility. But if we've got time at the end and you're open to that, we can actually come and open the mic up and you can ask a question directly. We try to do this as best we can as if we were in the room, because it's just a shame that we're actually not all in the room just now.
Yeah.
Celebrating together. So it's a virtual hug for you, first of all. That's it. Yeah. So before we start, whilst you compose yourself and gather, I'm going to read you the blurb then from Our Nipper. So it's one poor lad's search for his family. Archie Connor, a 12-year-old victim of early 20th century poverty, is determined to carry out the wishes of his dying mother to keep the family together and look after the newly born, unnamed boy, Our Nipper. Archie evades the authorities as they remove his siblings to the workhouse. Thus begins his quest to find his lost family again, a painful journey marked with hope and despair. Will they be reunited, or has he lost them forever to the devastation of war or to the rampaging Spanish flu?
Oh. And I got in that bit about Spanish flu before the pandemic. I was there first.
Yeah, and that's what I thought is actually that you had that correlation, because the book is set in World War One, just when the last kind of major pandemic, I suppose, to hit these isles actually was there. So
yeah, and I brought it into the story at some point. Yeah.
So this book, as I said earlier, it's a transition from you've mostly written crime fiction.
That's right, yeah.
And this story is then a change, a kind of standalone novel, as you've said. Where did the inspiration then come for this book?
Well, this one, I didn't have any conscious idea of it saying, right, I'm going to stop crime and I'm going to do something else. That didn't happen. It just developed. Well, it all started way back 2017, believe it or not, when I got the first inspiration for this. We were in London and we were going to the Harry Potter exhibition, and we were in a coach going through London, driving through London. And we stopped at roadworks, as you do, for ages, And just where we stopped was a row of Victorian buildings, scaffolding around them. I don't know whether they were doing them up or demolishing them, but they looked dreadful, in a dreadful state. You could hardly see them for the overgrowth and what have you. But just where I stopped, I could make out over the archway of one of these buildings something like charity home for displaced women and girls. And I just sat there, I thought, what went on in there? So by the time we'd moved off, there were things going in my head, and I would say that Our Nipper was born at that moment, but it's taken to 2020 to have it you know, in the book.
Yeah.
When I thought about it, I was more interested in a companion book for the first compilation of stories. Can you see that? Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
I'd written those, and I thought I'll have a companion book, and Our Nipper can be the first story. So I wasn't in any mad rush to write it because I hadn't any ideas for any of the other stories. I had a title for the book, A Few More Tales to Tell. That's as far as I got, and Our Nipper was going to be the first one. Anyway, from that time, in 2017, other things were happening, like the Lecky Legacy came into publication, 2 Julie books, as I call them, right? 2 novellas, and Before Lucy. So all this was going on. Our Nipper was kind of put on the back burner, but not totally, because I kept having wee ideas and I'd write another wee paragraph or a few sentences. And when eventually I finished Before Lucy, I thought I'll concentrate now on Our Nipper, only to find that it wasn't going to be a short story after all. It had grown arms and legs, and I just let the ideas come. And that's how it all started. So there you go, a tale of 3 years worth.
A tale of 3, but I think what that actually depicts is the inquisitive mind that an author really needs to have if you're writing fiction. It's that the inspiration can come from anywhere, but you suddenly seeing that archway and those words starts the mind to work. Oh, I wonder what if, or what happened, or yeah.
So that was how that started, yeah.
I think, can I just say, I absolutely love this book.
Thank you.
I absolutely love this. I mean, I like all your, I love your writing. I love all the Lucy trilogy and the, you know, the books from there, the crime. But this for me, I actually, I sat, when we're working with publishing a book, I don't always get to read it as a reader. If you know what I mean, because I'm working with the books, I'll know enough about it, and I often come back to books later on and sit and read them. And I've absolutely devoured this over the weekend, and because it's got a, although there is despair, there is hope, but it's not a misery story. And you've written some amazing characters and a great storyline, and I think that, you know, it really, I'm not surprised you've had people saying that they've enjoyed this book, because, you know, you definitely deserve some accolades for this one. I think it's been.
I enjoyed writing it, I must say. I thoroughly enjoyed writing it.
And I think maybe that tells as well. I think if you're reading something, if you've enjoyed writing it, and you have got a real talent for writing, Teresa, you know, you definitely have. So I think that as the reader, that comes across. That comes across. Can I ask you a minute about? Sorry, what did you do then? Much research into, you know, what actually happened? Because you're going back in time, you know, before, you know, you weren't around at this time, and they're probably so. Did you actually go and find out more about sort of workhouses and what happened?
Yeah, I did, and I used the library. I fear miss the library now during lockdown, but yes, I used the library and good old Google and a bit of Wikipedia. I wanted to find out more about the workhouses. I mean, I knew from reading Dickens and things like that, I had an idea of what it was like, because I wanted to make things authentic. You know, I wanted these children to be in the workhouse and show a bit of what it was possibly like, the good and the bad side of it. So I did that, and then I researched First World War, what it was like. I set it in London because that's where it grew. I wanted to find out a wee bit more about what happened there actually in the war. And it was a wee bit difficult because any time I did research, it was set World War II was coming up. So I got there eventually with the help of the library and got some ideas about, you know, what kind of things happened there, and based the story on around that.
And I think you've done a really good job, because it's not a period in history that I had read, you know, much about in terms of fiction, but I had a real sense of the you know, what was actually going on, the workhouses, the way that the family were, you know, were kind of swept up, and what was, you know, what was happening. And so your research worked well, being translated into that piece of fiction. You know, you did a good job. Also, just, I mean, for me, there's an element of travel, you know, goes on in the book as well.
I don't want to tell too much to people.
Yeah, so that's it. We've got to make sure we don't give them too many spoilers. But then, you know, actually, what came across to me was how difficult travel was.
Yes.
And it's something now that we take for granted that, you know, well, maybe not quite recently we could take for granted with jumping on a plane and going somewhere. But, you know, just how easy it is generally nowadays to get from, you know, from one place to another, to get across countries, to get across the other side of the world. And you realise that way back then, even getting a few miles was difficult.
And I had to research that as well. You know, how was this lad going to get from A to B, and what were the difficulties in travelling? Yeah. One day he was going 200 miles somewhere. Well, we would jump in the car, you'd be there in no time. But this was taking him days. So yeah, I had to research that as well.
Yeah, yeah. So do you find, so as you're uncovering your research, does that help spark other ideas for the storyline? Does that bring something else to it as well?
Yes, it does. And also new characters pop up in the research. You know, when I start to write, all of a sudden there are other people coming into this story. I've got to build them in round various things. Yeah. So yes, characters and plots all appear out of thin air at times.
Or the writer's muse, as we say often, just appears.
That's what
the writer's muse. Yeah. So you've got the children of the story. The key, you know, you've got Archie, Ruby, Betsy, and our Nipper, who was just a baby that never had a name.
Didn't even have a name.
Doesn't have a name. Did you feel that you actually knew them by the time you'd written this book? Then were they real to you?
Yeah, I find that with all my characters, you know, all the books I've written, I really like them. I think they belong to me, they're mine. But these wee kiddies were special, you know, poor wee orphans, you know. I really felt for them. Yeah, I got very fond of them all.
Yeah. Because I got that sense, you know, from knowing you, and knowing what a kind-hearted person that you are.
That's nice.
Yeah, absolutely true. That as you were writing the story about this young family, I had visions of you're just wanting to hug them and cuddle them and look after them, and so that you were writing the story in such a way that there was going to, you know, the good things were going to happen to them, even though they had such a terrible, difficult start. And I suppose, were you aware that you were kind of writing and putting some of yourself in your...
I really felt for them. I thought, well, we have to do this one right.
Yeah. For anybody who's going to go and read the book, it's not a misery memoir type story, you know, because there's a lot of those books were written a few years ago. There was a real time when you couldn't walk into a bookshop, but you would pick up some story of, you know, like some person who was sharing their terrible life that had happened, and then you got a lot of fiction stories that came out that were just all misery and you know, death and destruction, and there was no hope in them whatsoever. And I'm pleased to say that that's definitely not the case with this book, because there is hope, and there is a lot of kindness actually shown. Did the characters that developed, because through Archie's journey in particular, because Archie is the one who's having to, he's separated from his family, and he's the one who's having to go and find the rest of them. But he encountered a lot of very kind people during his journey.
Yes.
Is that something that I mean, are those characters, are they based on other people that you knew, or just on your research that you uncovered? Or no? Not
based on anybody, no, not really, no. They just appeared, and as you say, they were kind to this lad, you know, and tried to help him with his search for his family. Yeah.
And I think that's maybe what says it, why I enjoyed the book so much. You know what I mean? Because you know that for me, kindness is what makes the world a much better place.
Yeah.
And reading the acts of kindness that people did for the family, for the individuals going, you know, particularly for Archie, obviously, as he was going through life and trying to find his family, but also for the, you know, the girls and the longer tale of the story and what happens. There were so many kind elements, but not in a chocolate box super sweet sort of way, because you had to balance that with some of the difficult times that the family were uncovering.
And you can feel for this lad, you know, you could feel the emotion that they had for him and his plight.
Yeah. So Archie's a really because they were in abject poverty.
Absolutely. I researched that as well to see what were the really, really poor people at that time, how could they live? And although the father had a job, he was hopeless as a father, you know, and hopeless as a husband. He just drank the money, and they had even less than they could have had, you know. He couldn't come to terms with things that were going on in his life, but the poverty side of it was pretty bad in those days, really awful. How society treated people, you know.
And I think you know, between the abject poverty that people were experiencing and the element, the fact that we had the whole Spanish flu, you know, thing going on, there are sort of parables and comparables, I suppose, if you like, with kind of current times, even, because, you know, there are families now who are living in poverty. It's maybe a little more hidden because, you know, we don't have the workhouses people are dragged off to, but it's. I did feel that there was, even though it's a story set, you know, 100 years ago, that it could almost be there's an element of stuff that was actually, you know, quite modern take as well.
Yeah.
And is that something? I mean, were you aware when you were writing that you were making, or were you thinking about what it's like now in comparison, or were you just kind of stuck in that time frame?
I was really stuck in the book, and what got through to me was this family were being punished for being poor. You know, there's a whole lot of people in society at that time, and I suppose today as well. You know, people are suffering for being poor. It's not their fault, you know. And that's what I was trying to write about, trying to get across.
Yeah. But even though they're poor, and I think this is the thing, is that Archie in particular is such a well-mannered. So even as we were talking, he was brought up well. You know, he was well brought up. So he had the kind of morals and the manners that helped him then really to kind of stand out.
Yeah, and to get through life, you know. Yes. Wanted to be a credit to his poor mum, so I think he was.
He absolutely was.
I love his mum.
Absolutely, a credit to his poor mum. So you do. Excuse me. The story then takes. I mean, it moves away from London, and you know, we're not giving too much away, but he does head across head across to America, and that. Did you then research what America was like as well?
Yes, I had to have a wee look there as well, and the travel, of course, to get there. Yeah. But we won't tell people how we got there. We won't tell them. They'll have to read about how we ended up between London and America.
Yeah, how we got from London to America. Yeah, as another part of the book. But the whole, for me as well, I was reading and I was really enjoying the descriptions of, you know, being in America. And I think it takes me back to looking at, you know, there's a particular hotel as described, and the glamour. So you have this complete, you know, complete difference from where Archie's humble beginnings were, and then finding himself in this, you know, like a very glamorous hotel. All this Hollywood-esque, you know, film stars. Like that was what I was like. Would you have liked to live in that hotel yourself then, Teresa?
It would have been nice, yes. 5-star plus, I would say.
Yeah. And have you experienced? I mean, because I know that you do travel, you know, maybe not recently, of course, because none of us have been, but you know, enjoy kind of like going out and being in different places. I wondered, had you pulled any of your own experiences and knowledge about being in different places and staying in different hotels? Had you pulled any of that into this?
Yes, I suppose so. Yeah, things like that are in your subconscious, aren't they? When you've been in a nice place, and then if you go to write about it, it triggers something. Oh yeah, I remember that, the chandeliers or whatever. You know, it can come back into the story.
Yeah, and I think that's the it is the interesting part of writing, that we can't ever write in complete isolation, because we are bringing our own past experiences and what we've lived, what we've seen, what our own beliefs and values are. And I think that's what I was trying to say earlier. There was so much for me. This was you in this book. You know, the you know, the kindness, the travel, the just some of the words. Even I could see that. I think you've written beautiful descriptions and really nice dialogue where the people are interacting. And that's not always an easy thing for a writer to do.
No, to try and get into the mind of the person and the stage they are in life, and where, you know, the time they're living in. We're trying to bring in that kind of language. I was reading not long ago Ambrose Parry.
Oh, yeah.
You know, The Way of All Flesh. Was written about the 18-something, and the language in there, it's just so different from the way we talk now. You know, I was trying to bring that kind of thing into the book. How would they have spoken in those days?
Yeah.
What kind of language they have used?
Yeah, and I think you've done that really well, because it does, you know, it is of its time. That's the thing. Like you say, it's not Dickens in terms of, you know, the kind of the way that Charles Dickens would have written, but you can definitely see the style and speech as part of that. You know, like you say, even our nipper isn't a phrase that would necessarily have kind of, you know, be used nowadays for a young baby.
Yeah. I think if it had been written in Glasgow, it would have been Our Wayne, or Our Wayne for the title.
Exactly, yeah. So can we maybe get you to read a little then, and share a little bit for the
audience? Okay, have a wee drink of the G&T. This is when the mother has died not long after giving birth to the baby, and the father, he's out of the picture. I got rid of him quite quickly. And these poor kiddies have been taken in by a very, very kind neighbour and her husband, who's known the family all their days. They're called Stan and Doris Young. Carol, a wee nod to the Youngs, that's my cousin. So I'll read this wee bit. This family, they've had a few months of being really well looked after by these people. Things are so different from them. They're clean, they're tidy, they're fed, they're happy. And I'll just read this bit. The year 1913 turned into an ominously unsettled 1914, with talk of war dominating the life of the citizens as they waited anxiously for news. Events in the far-off Balkans and the name Archduke Franz Ferdinand had meant little to the masses, and it was left to the politicians like the incumbent of 10 Downing Street, Herbert Asquith, to understand the repercussions and to make decisions. But in the summer of 1914, talk finally became reality when war was declared. It was to affect the lives of many thousands of people across the world and brought a devastating change to the life and security of the Connor children. Despite the care and love lavished on them, Archie was worried about the future. Aunt Doris ventured to say, "What's to happen to us, to me and the girls and our nipper?" It was a question Doris had been dreading. Her shoulders sagged and her heart raced as she tried to control her emotions. This was not going to be an easy conversation. She licked her lips, took a deep breath, and wished Stan was there to help her. "Archie lad, now that war has been declared, our Mabel is coming back to live with her." That was her daughter. "Her man has joined the army and he's away to fight for king and country. She has 2 kiddies and another on the way. I'm sorry, lad. Her voice cracked with emotion, but there won't be room for you all here. You'll all be going to the workhouse. Now don't cry, lad, it's for the best. You'll be fed and educated. Keep your head down and do what you're told and all will be well. Archie hugged the woman he'd come to see as a substitute mother, his small body shaking as she bit back her own sobs. They clung to each other and she let the young boy cry his eyes out. He held on as tightly as he could, as if in doing so it would prevent him having to leave. Ruby and Betsy, who'd been quietly playing with toys, looked up at the sound of weeping. Ruby stood up. What's wrong here, Archie? Her brother, too overcome with sadness to reply, looked at his sisters and at the baby, who was cooing happily in his crib, before freeing himself from Doris's comforting arms. Then he stood up and ran from the house, tears streaming down his face and nipping his eyes. Archie ran without caring where he was going. Tears stung his eyes and temporarily blinded him. The cold air penetrated his body and echoed the cold pain in his heart. But he ran on, oblivious to his surroundings. Only when he passed the frog and pond did he realise he'd been running in circles and was now a stone's throw from his former derelict hovel of a home. Exhausted physically and emotionally, he climbed down into the basement of the building, where he curled up on the doorstep and wept. He wept for his mum, for the only life he'd known, and vowed he would keep his promise to keep the family together. He was totally oblivious to the dark, dingy building and the smell of decay and death. The door was closed and barricaded by wooden planks, a sign that the authorities had taken back the house that he'd once called home. He sat in the broken step for a long time. We ain't going to no workhouse, over and over again in his thoughts. Noticing a tiny opening in the barricade, enough for a small boy to tug and widen enough to squeeze through, he crawled into the sinking hovel. He wept as he looked around the room at the meagre pieces of wooden crates that had served as their furniture. The authorities hadn't seen them worthy of salvaging, leaving them to the mercy of the rodents who'd once shared the house with a family. Beleaguered, Archie sat on the cold floor for hours, the only sound coming from his rapid breathing and the scratching of mice as they searched for food. The light from the one window in the room began to fade, and he shivered from cold and damp, his stomach rumbling with hunger as he fought to stay awake. Suddenly he remembered his mum's instructions and prized open a loose floorboard which had squirreled away a meagre amount of money. It's for a rainy day, she told Archie when she knew she was not long for this world. Your dad knows naught about it. I want you to use it, son, when I'm gone. It ain't much, but it will tide you over for a bit. Archie counted the money his mother had wrapped in a rag. 4 shillings and 3 halfpenny. A fortune, he thought. He wrapped it carefully, put it in his pocket, and with a last look around his home and a vicious kick at a rat that ran across the room, he set off to collect his sisters and baby brother, unsure of how he would protect him from the fate of the workhouse or where they were to live. He'd heard horror stories of such places, of cruelty, hard work and beating, and filled him with dread, and he was determined to keep them safe from a place where people were punished for being poor. Archie was resolute in his vow to keep his siblings together as his mum had wanted. With renewed purpose, he ran to fetch them from the Youngs' home, with no idea of where they would go from there. The rain was relentless as Archie ran back to the house, stopping only briefly at the door to catch his breath and plan what he was going to do without hurting the feelings of the Youngs. Back in the warm room, he looked around and noticed both Doris and Stan's demeanour and stopped in his tracks. He looked distraught. Stan's shoulders sagged as he hugged Doris, whose eyes were red with weeping. Where's our Ruby and Betsy and our nipper, he yelled as he glanced around the room. It was silent, free from the carefree laughter that had filled the home for several months. Stan Young stood and placed his hand gently on the shoulders of the young lad he'd grown to love as a son. With a deep sigh, he explained, "Sorry, Archie. The authorities came for them while you were away. I just got back in from work when they arrived. They're coming back for you later this evening. It's for the best, lad. You'll have a roof over your heads and food." "No," screamed Archie as he thumped angrily at Stan's chest. Stan remained silent and allowed the boy to vent his anger. He too felt helpless in the face of such a traumatic turn of events. After a few minutes, Archie freed himself from the man's clutches, then turned and once more fled from the house. To be continued.
Well done, congratulations. That was really interesting. And unknown to you, I'm watching. I can actually see everybody else. I was kind of scrolling through it. Everybody was sitting there, just kind of, spellbound by your words and your reading. So thank you so much for that. What I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to check does anybody have a particular question or anything that they would like to pose. What I'm going to do, I'll actually put us back to gallery view so I can see everybody. Does anybody have anything that they would like to ask Teresa? Actually, just so.
Rebecca!
Rebecca's here.
Hello. Hello.
Hello, I'm sorry I'm late. My computer wouldn't let me log on, so I'm on my phone. And I just wanted to say hi. It's a beautiful day in California, and Terry, that passage was exceptional. I can't wait to read the book. I have no questions because I know she's a fabulous writer. I've read everything.
And you were the start of it all.
I will take full credit for shining a light on your brilliance.
Thank you. Oh, it's good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Thank you, Rebecca. Yeah, I suppose on that, Terry, would you like to explain a little bit about how you got into writing then, seeing as Rebecca's actually here, because not everybody might actually know that story. So
That's true. Well, many years ago, I discovered Rebecca's book. She's written fabulous books, and I can recommend them all. She has the Witness series, and I read the first one on Kindle, Hostile Witness, and I was hooked. I was absolutely hooked on the characters, the whole story, and I read book after book after book. I devoured them. Got to book 5, finished it. It was left in a cliffhanger, which is very bad at doing, leaving people hanging in the air. Anyway, I couldn't find book 6. Searched everywhere, couldn't get it. So I sent an email off and I said, "Where will I find book 6? And right away, and this really stunned me, within minutes, a reply came back, "Oh, you won't find it. I'm writing it. It won't be ready until such many months." And I wrote back and I said, "Oh, can't you write a bit quicker, please?" So that started a friendship, and we've communicated. We've been great friends, and she came over last year, was it? It seems ages ago, to Edinburgh, and we met up in person with her and her poor husband.
I think that was a year ago now, I think.
A year ago, yeah.
Yeah, and Steve sends his best. He just walked out to work and said congratulations. So my husband and I had a wonderful time, and Terry and her husband Drew were so kind. They took a whole day off and showed us around, and Drew taught me how to speak Scottish, and I've forgotten. So
you'll need to come back.
But Terry, it was actually Rebecca's inspiration as well that got you writing too, though.
Yes, she did. I don't know how it happened, whether because I had to wait so long for this book coming that she was writing. I don't know whether she suggested I write something, or I think she did. Anyway, I wrote the wee short story. I think it was the first one in a tale or two, the one about First World War, where my dad was involved in fighting there, and I sent it over to her, and she got back to me and said, "You have to write. You've got talent, you have to write."
Yeah, Terry said she had always wanted to write, and it didn't take much of a prodding. I mean, I think she said, "Go ahead," and she did. So I think it was always under your skin, and you're so prolific that I think these stories have been, you know, percolating for a long, long time, Terry, because you do write so quickly and so well that it's always fun. It's like for every one book I write, you write 3. And it's just, but that's okay.
Can I say thank you, Rebecca, for encouraging her, because we've all had the fruits of her wonderful imagination with all these books that have come from that, and we've all loved them too. So thanks.
Well,
for that.
having met her, I now see that her imagination and her real life are kind of the same thing. So, you know, I mean, it's amazing. I never had so much fun as the day we spent with your family, but I do now understand where the energy comes from. You know, it's one thing to actually email someone, and it's a whole other thing to meet them and realize where the talent and the energy to write does come from. And her husband is so incredibly supportive. I think that is just key to her success.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you. Anyone else? Does anyone else have a comment or a question, or I'll just put us back to gallery just so I can see everybody if anybody wants to.
Who's all on? I can see a few. How many people?
We can see. Yep. So we've got Lynn here. We've got Fee Sutherland's joining us. Just to let you know, Fee Sutherland's joining us because her book will be coming out soon. So we'll be looking forward to doing a launch event with Fee. Carolyn as well. Carolyn's book's almost ready to go. So
Yes.
I've got a few writers on the group. Lorna Monroe's sitting here as well. I can see Lorna. And we're doing Lorna's book launch next month. And Fatula, we've already, you know, her book's been out a wee while, so we've done a few things. And Irene, yes, that book needs to come out. You've been writing for too long. We need to get this. We need to get Irene
published.
Irene's book out. And John was on the call last week. We were doing John's book launch for Pride of the Bears last week. So we've got a team of writers actually on the call today as well, which is lovely. With my question then, Terry, as we have got a few writers here, any advice then on how do you manage to write so many books? As Rebecca said, you're managing 3 for her 1. What's the skill or the tips that you could give to everybody then for that?
Well, the fact that time, that's the bonus. You know, I've got the time to do it, retired, and you know, I can do that. I just think you just let the imagination go. I don't bother with things like punctuation and a new paragraph here, there, or anything. I just let the story come, let the characters develop, and then at the end you can sort out all the footery bits or get a good editor like Christine to come and sort it all out. But yeah, just let it all flow. Just let the imagination go.
And you've been known to have a few cliffhangers yourself for books, but thankfully not in this one. You rounded.
Well, that's a happy ending. Sort of happy ending. We don't want to give away the story. No.
Yeah. It's good. Do you think is there more to come? Because you said this was a standalone book, but I'm just wondering, is there more to come from Archie and his family? Do you reckon we're going to have a follow-up?
Well, somebody suggested, yes, they want to hear more. I had no intention of, I mean, it was to be a short story. Who knows? That's the answer to that. Who knows what's going to happen? But what I had planned to do, I'm almost finished the 3rd of the Julie books. You know, I call them, they don't mind novellas. Almost finished. You can warn your dear husband that I'll be coming to him with my technology skills soon. And I was thinking after that, I think I'll have a break from writing. I was thinking I might try and come to terms with technology. I really need to learn more about how to work all this, and I need to look seriously at marketing. I really have to think seriously about that. So I was thinking after the next Julie book, have a wee break, sort out my skills such as they are, and then see what happens. No doubt things will come into my mind during that time, and I'll be jotting down things, and you never know.
Yep, and that's it. It's a challenge for everybody about marketing your book and just helping people to get to know about you. That's the main thing, is making sure that people actually get a chance to find out about you. And the kindest thing, I suppose, that people can do who've read your book, first of all, is to write a review for you. You know, isn't it? Because that's what we said. You know, the more reviews that you have,
yeah.
that
difficult, but you know, people will say nice things about it, and you say, "Oh, could you maybe write a review?" And, oh, yeah, but yeah, they seldom come.
Yeah, and it's just it's that thing that people's lives just go on. It's not that they don't mean to do it, but that happens when people's lives go on. And the other thing, I suppose, is just to, if you have read, if you've read Our Nipper or you've read any other Terry's books, we all buy books and read books on recommendation. First and foremost, the number one thing that will sell a book is somebody saying, "Oh, you must read this book."
Yeah.
And that's the thing. If you have read it, you know, like tell others, because you know, from a small group of people reading your book, it can really grow when people just start to talk about it and share it out. So yeah, and we'll be here to support you and encourage you with all sorts of marketing things that we've got some new things planned as well that we're trying to get set up. Yeah, we have great plans for this year, and
When we ever get out of lockdown.
Yeah, whenever we get out of lockdown. Our events are unfortunately, like I said, not physically happening, and our pop-up bookshops aren't happening that we were going to be doing. But never mind, we've got other events and things that hopefully we can get established later on this year. Mm-hmm. So, just one last chat. Yes. So John has a question. You may have to unmute yourself, I think, John.
Hi, Terry.
Hi, John. Hello.
Hello there. Nice to see you again. We've stood in stalls together, selling our books, and you know, I mean, you are very prolific in your writing. But how do you rate the experience of trying to market your books against actually writing your books? Because obviously, what you want to do is actually get your book out there, you know, or books out there.
This is what I want to try and concentrate on. Rebecca, got any ideas and hints of marketing?
Need to unmute her.
Oh, there we go. You're on to it.
I just wonder just.
There we
go.
So,
I'm glad I hate technology. I think this is a problem we all share, is that we have to rely on technology. So what I would say is, one thing I found really effective is the readers groups on Facebook. If you join the readers groups, they often let you post about your book. And so there are so many. There are Kindle reading groups. There are Apple reading groups. There are general reading groups, mystery ones. So I joined about 6 of them. It's best if you also can be a participant in the group, but many of them just let you post with your links so that the readers know you're out there. And I think it's one of the least expensive. In fact, it costs nothing. It takes a little time, but if you get your message together, you have a nice visual of your book cover, or you just link it to the online. Most of these people on Facebook are going to be reading the digital version. Yeah. So I think that's a great way. That, and Twitter, of course, you know, not my favorite. I don't have a lot of time. So I think these reading groups are excellent.
Mm-hmm. Good. Thank you.
Thanks, Rebecca. Yeah.
John, yes, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I've joined a couple of science fiction reading groups, and I'm pretty sure there must be crime thriller reading groups as well. Yeah. That kind of thing where you can really push your legacy, because I mean, I've read the 3 books and they're all an excellent read. So I mean, they deserve to be out there in the like the book sphere, if that's what you want to call it.
This is the thing, we've lost so much with this lockdown. We've lost the craft fairs and the gala days and all the things that I normally use and have taken part in. We've lost all that this year. So, anyway.
So I think what we can do is by friends, family, those that love you, those that love the book, generally kind of like letting people go and sharing it. one of the key things that we're working on just now is our book club and connecting those readers groups and pulling them in so that we can actually amplify the message. It's not just to one readers group or one book club that we're actually, and there's a bit of research going on just now that Kirsten's involved in. So we're hoping that we can help you all, get a wee bit more visual recognition with other spaces. So. Just a couple of, any last comments, questions from anybody else who's watching? Right, okay, we're coming to Lynn. Lynn's got a, right, maybe need to unmute yourself, Lynn, is somebody? If we can get, because it's, that's it, that's
Is that me? Have you, that
Yep.
was more luck than anything, Kim. Hi, Teresa. That passage you read was amazing. It really sounds an amazing book. Thank you for that. What I wanted to ask was, you said that it was the idea was conceived about 3 years ago when you spotted the derelict place in London, but you'd went on to other things, and I was just wondering, how difficult was it for you to go back and pick up? Was your inspiration still there, and did it still flow as easily, or did you have to think, right, where have I been, and where do I still need to go with this?
No, I think a new idea would come and I just pop it down and maybe a paragraph about it. I didn't keep going over and over it. As I say, this was put in the back burner, really. It wasn't meant to be turned out the way it did.
Yeah.
We just say this lady here is absolutely wonderful.
Oh, stop
She's
it.
blind, she has no sight whatsoever, and she has written the most marvellous book. And I'm speaking to a friend yesterday who's going to buy one, Lynn, so there you go.
Oh, you really can, Terry. Thanks very much. And I have to say that you have given me loads of information, because Terry and I keep in touch through Facebook and Messenger and what have you, and she's given me lots of hints and tips and what have you, because I've never known anyone like her, the amount of stuff she's done and what she's happy to share and what have you. And just to echo what Kerry said, because we've met Drew on lots of occasions, and he's amazing. He is.
See you all soon, hopefully.
Yes, I do hope so. And can I just say very quickly, John, I tried to get into your session last week. I thought all I had to do was go on the Indie Authors website and hit the button, and lo and behold, there was nothing there. But now that I've got in this, I'll know for future events, so that's good.
Well, I think that Kim is going to post it on Facebook at some point. Is that right?
Yeah.
Did you record all right, Kim?
We have. It's going up to YouTube today, so and then we'll be able to share it. So you can watch.
Okay.
Tune in and watch John's later. So
Lovely. Lovely.
I'll post it on my Goodreads page as well, because you can post Goodreads YouTube videos on Goodreads, which is quite good. So
Good.
I'll be doing that. I would recommend Goodreads as well for getting your author profile out there.
Right.
If anybody's interested, have a look at how I've set up my author profile on Goodreads, because I've connected with loads of authors all over the world.
Brilliant.
So I've enjoyed the experience.
Thanks,
Well,
John. And thank you for your question. Yeah, and Lynn's busy writing our next book too. So
I am, but I've been working on it a long time, and I have to say, the last few months have been quite difficult for me, and I haven't done. It would have been the ideal opportunity to get stuck into it, but I just haven't, for some reason, had the whatever it is I need to get on with it. But I'm determined I will do, Kim.
we'll look forward to that. We'll look forward to seeing you soon. So thanks, Lynn. I'm going to put you back in. Rebecca, yes.
Yeah, just if I see there are quite a few authors on here, and of course I'm always shouting out about Terry, but if you guys will just, Terry, will you send me the names of the authors, and I'll just shout out on my social media too, to let everybody know I was with this wonderful group today. And I think authors helping authors are really a superb way to go too, because some of our readers will be very interested and intrigued. So if somebody will just send the names or the links on Facebook or friends or whatever, I'll do my part over here in America.
Right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, John, for the thumbs up.
Thank you. Right, we had somebody else wanting to ask a question. Was it Emma or Carolyn? Somebody else had. A minute, I'll just go back to my gallery view and I'll see everybody. So Carol's wanting to ask a question, right? Okay, there we go. Well, try unmute.
Carol.
You maybe have to unmute yourself.
Unmute.
Right, I've unmuted.
There we are. Good stuff. Right, there we are.
Carol,
Right, Teresa there.
I'm here.
Right,
I'm my cousin, by the way, folks.
Oh, hi, Drew.
I'm not.
Teresa, I just want to ask you when am I getting my copy of your book?
Well, I'm sitting here waiting for you. When you coming to see me with this
Oh,
log?
you can come over and get it. All right.
Pop over and get one. Or you're in Bishop Briggs, you could go and see Kim, could maybe give you one. She's in
No,
Bishop.
I want yours with your
Oh, you want
right.
a signature?
You need to
Sorry,
write.
Kim. Yeah, well, you just have to come and see
Right,
it.
okay,
Have
I'll
a
come over
coffee.
sometime.
Okay,
Okay.
we'll arrange that. Right?
Looking forward to reading it.
Thank you. You'll enjoy it. Good, good.
Okay, so I'm just conscious of the time, folks. So
Rebecca, say hello to Drew, and then we'll maybe just tidy those up.
say hello to Drew. Is Drew? He's lurking in the corner there. So
I'm not lurching. What the hell up?
we can't see you. You'll just need to come over a wee bit so we can go and come round the corner and say hello. There we are. Here's the man who keeps the wheels of the writing industry working, isn't it?
Yeah, the PR man who sells the books to everyone, whether they want them or not.
I've got a very good technique, Tim.
Yeah.
Tesco, and you get them standing looking at the books. You don't get much choice here. Yeah. How do I try that?
There's my business card. Yeah, you all need a business card. Carry them around.
Rebecca.
There's Rebecca.
Yeah, I have to shout to Emma too. I see Emma's there. Hello.
I know.
I
I've
want Drew to
Like
come
the
work
beard.
for me. I want Drew to come work for me, Terry.
We'll send them
Have you-
over.
Becca,
Yeah,
have you noticed?
Notice the beard. Notice you see them there.
So
So,
I'd like to do now, just obviously we can't be in the room and give you a big celebratory hug, but what I would like to do is if everybody can unmute just for a minute, and we're going to just give her a round of applause and say congratulations to her. So if you can unmute her. And
Well,
after three, Rebecca, I'm sorry, you're still muted, so if you want to try unmuting yourself again, and we can. Oh, it's stuck. There we go. That's it. There we are. Right. So after 1, 2, 3, can we give her a big round of applause and say congratulations?
Yay!
thank you. Thank you everyone for coming. It's a lovely day. You could all have been out Sunday. It's a lovely day here too.
Yes,
Sun
nice, yeah.
shining.
So,
Thank
Yeah.
you all.
so can I say thank you very
Thank you.
much for coming along? We will be there will be a recording, so we'll be able to share that, and you can share it with everybody who couldn't manage to come along today. And thank you all so much for your attention, and thank you to Terry for wonderful book.
Yeah.
It is available on the online bookstores, and you can also get it. You can order it from our website, which is indieauthorsworld.com. You'll be able to find it on there too. So congratulations, and have a lovely rest of the day, everybody.
Thanks everyone.
See you all soon. So thank you.
Thanks, Teresa.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
See you all
Bye.
soon, hopefully.